Hi everyone, welcome to the second lecture of ModPro. And this part of the lecture will be about plotting, and plotting is how to visualize your data. So for instance, to go from a list of numbers to a graph that everyone can understand. And on this side of the screen I'm going to write down what you have to do in MATLAB, and over here I'm going to write down what will appear in MATLAB, what MATLAB will generate. The first thing you have to start with is figure. That's the command. If you write this in the command window, a screen like this, a box, will pop up. And if you want to make a graph now, your graph, well, you will need some input. You have a plot command, and plot command that's going to create your graph needs input. So I'm going to define the input first. Actually what I want to do now is to plot a sine wave and a cosine wave as well. So I'm going to write this down. I'm first going to create my x value. And my x value is a value that runs from 0 with a step size of 0.01 until 2 pi. So actually this will be a vector, and the name of the vector is x value, and it will look like this. We'll start at 0, and the next value will be 0.01, value thereafter will be 0.02, 0.03, and it will continue until 2 pi. So actually in MATLAB this is not going to work, so I have to write down 2 times pi. So here as well, 2 times pi. So that's what this vector looks like. And I'm going to suppress this using a semicolon like this, because I'm not interested in all that happens in well, I'm not interested in seeing this whole vector. I just want to have this value. So this is the begin value, step size of the vector, and final value. So now I've defined my x value, and nothing will happen because I haven't plotted my data yet. And because I want to make a 2D plot, I need my y value as well. Y value. And I define my y value as the sine of the x value. So sine is a MATLAB command, and the input will be the vector of the x value. So it will result in another vector containing my y values. So now I have an x value and a y value, and I'm going to plot this. So I'm going to run the command plot x value, y value. And when I run this command, this is what will happen. So this is the sine wave I've actually created. So let's assume we want to plot a cosine wave as well. Then there's one thing we need to do that's very important. We need to write down hold on. Otherwise MATLAB will erase this sine wave, and it will and only the cosine wave will be visible. So I need to plot hold on, or it will even open a new figure, because I want to plot the sine wave and the cosine wave in the same figure. So now I'm going to plot this cosine wave, and I don't want to create new variables. I'm going to write it just at once. And I'm going to take a little more space for this, but I'm going to write down this. plot 0, the substep of 0, 1, so that will be my x value until 2 pi. So I can write down my my x value directly as well. I'm going to write down the cosine of 0 until 0.01 dot 2 pi. And I want to give my cosine wave, actually I want to give it a different color and different shape that can be useful for visibility. So I'm going to do this as well, and I'm going to use a trick which you can use in MATLAB as well. I'm going to use 3 dots and 3 dots over here, and then MATLAB will continue. So on a lower rule, and that will look like, I'm going to use this. So, and I want to have different thickness as well, so I'm going to give it line width So what have I done? I have my x value, my y value, so that's maybe good to mention. And I've got my shape of my line, and this is a dashed line, and it has a color blue. And now it has a line width of 2. And actually, if you want to search for more styles to plot lines, you can use the help and search for line style. You will find many variations to the color and the shape of the line. Well, I have some line width. I think it's in MATLAB it's even thinner than this. But for now, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to plot my cosine wave now, because so now you can see my cosine wave, and it is actually dashed, like I said. So that's what MATLAB will do using these commands, and there are many variations. So you should just search in the MATLAB help, and you'll find a lot more. Okay, so now I have a graph, but if you send this to your customer or to a teacher, it will say it's rubbish because it doesn't say anything on the horizontal and vertical axis. So we've got commands for that as well. So let's say X label. And X label is the horizontal label. And if I want to give it a name, I have to write it in between quotation marks. So single quotation marks, because it's actually a text value. So over here my X will appear. I'm going to do the same for Y. Actually I should write it below, but now well, not enough space. So I write it over here. I'm going to use a Y label, and that's named Y. So it's very basic. You can write whatever you want between those brackets. You can even use LaTeX Unicode to write some text and type some text. Okay, so now I'm almost clear, but for clarity I want to add a legend as well. And you can add a legend like this. Write down a legend, and I'm going to write down the text. So the first graph, so the green one, is the sine wave. The second one is the cosine wave. Mind that you write this between brackets because it's text again. And I want to set its location. And I'm going to set its location by write down location. And I want it on top in the middle over here. And that location will be north. So over here, and I hope I can write this down clearly. Over here, my legend will appear. It will display something like this. Sine and cosine. And of course, again over here you can write down whatever you want. And if you're doing somewhat more advanced MATLAB, you can even generate these names automatically. So I think it's best if you start practicing those assignments, and I hope to see you in the next video about matrices.